is plugged in.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for attending today's meeting. I'd like to call today's regular council and closed council meeting agenda for Monday, November 23rd, 2020 to order. And I'd like to start out today's meeting with a bit of sad news. At the Town of Olds family has lost one of our own this past week. Jane Archer, who has worked with the Town of Olds for over 15 years in our planning and development departments and various other aspects of the town, passed away last week rather suddenly. And on behalf of council, I would certainly, and administration, would like to send our condolences off to Jane's family, and I know our CAO would like to speak a little bit about her passing as well, and it's with a heavy heart that I ask CAO to go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. As the Mayor indicated, last week we lost a valued member to our team, our staff, when Jane Archer passed away after a very short illness. Jane, as the Mayor mentioned, was a member of our planning development staff, and therefore she had reached many people, both internally to the town, but also a lot of external people due to the nature of her position. Having worked with the town over 15 years, Jane was really one of her longer-serving members, and to lose someone of that stature and value is really heart-rending at this time, as we're going through quite a bit in not only the town but the province. We also wanted to pass along our deepest thoughts and sympathies to Jane's family, her colleagues, her friends and associates, as she has many of all those to speak to. To commemorate Jane's passing, we did lower the flags to half-mast, which is customary, especially if we lose a current member of staff, so to speak. We will also be making a donation of trees in Jane's memory. I think that's a very fitting item, as we have a tree requirements to replace, and I think by having donations of the trees will be a great memory to Jane and her dedication to our town. So with that, I just would like to say thank you, Jane, for all your years of service and your kindness, and rest in peace. Thank you.
Thank you so much, CAO. All right, let's jump right into the agenda. Are there any added items? Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would like to add an item under UPC Parks. It's just
It's what, sorry?
UPC Parks.
Parks?
Yes,
Okay.
it's equipment and other decorative things.
Okay, should we put that under new business, under 6B?
That will work.
Okay, 6B, CP Parks. Okay, CAO.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a added item, capital budget adjustment,
Okay,
6C if possible.
6C, absolutely. 6C. Okay. Yes, Councillor Overwater, would you like to add an agenda item?
Thank you, Worship. Yes, appointments to boards.
Okay, that we should put under new business as well as 6D. And we'll have a closed session on that as traditional when we appoint members at large to boards and so forth. So that'll be under subsection 17 of FOIP. And FOIP 17. Okay, good. Anybody else with an added item? All right, seeing none, I would take a motion to adopt today's agenda as amended. Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Your Worship. I move that we accept the agenda today for Monday, November 23rd, 2020, as amended.
Excellent, thank you very much. Any comments, questions, or concerns? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor and opposed? And that motion carries. Thank you. All right, so let's move along to the adoption of previous minutes. May I start with a motion? Councillor Harper.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I move that the minutes from the November 9th, 2020 regular council meeting be adopted as presented.
Excellent. Questions, comments? Yes, Councillor Thompson.
Just for clarity, is Claire from the Chamber of Commerce, is it Claire Janitz or Claire Janowitz? I believe it's Janitz, Janitz. If I could request that amendment.
On which page, Councillor
So
Thompson?
she is a delegation under Chamber of Commerce.
Okay. Page 5, we have it, Ledge Clerk? Excellent. Any further comments, errors, corrections? Seeing none, Councillor Harper, you're okay to amend your motion as amended?
By all means, it's a typo error for spelling.
Excellent. All right, I'll call for a vote. All in favor and opposed? And that motion carries as well. Excellent. Let's move right along. We have no presentations and delegations today. Is there any business arising out of the minutes or unfinished business? Yes, Councillor Harper.
Yes, thank you very much, Your Worship. It's under the item in reference to motion, business arising out of the minutes, in reference to the 70th Avenue intersection. It's page 5 of our agenda.
Yes.
I just want clarification in reference to the press release and the information that was sent out in reference to the design of this capital project, and I'm going to use the word, is it a roundabout or a traffic circle? Roundabout, I believe. I had a number of phone calls over the weekend from professional truck drivers in reference to the size of this roundabout, because Highway 2A is definitely a major route, and especially over the winter time when traffic is diverted off of Highway 2 onto 2A. And their concern is the size of the roundabout. Will it fit semi-trailer trucks that are 50, I believe they're classified 56 feet or longer? And they also indicated that if you're coming from south and wanting to eventually enter the new southeast industrial subdivision, their concern is the turns would be way too tight. So I just want clarification that the designs will in fact fit these major semi-trailer tractor units that are carrying loads to the subdivisions.
I'll ask Director Chant to speak to that.
Thank you, through the chair. Yes, Alberta Transportation has design standards that this has to meet their design standards. So they do take into classifications different size of vehicles and what that highway is utilized. So they use different formulas for different size trucks, and for a tractor unit with 2 trailers that's probably the largest load that you'll have going down 2A. And so yes, it has to meet their specifications for this circle at that speed. And again, when we talk about circles versus roundabouts, it's the physical distance size. In the press release it had, if you're going 30 kilometers an hour, you will not have any issues. You try to take it any faster than that, then you're going to have issues. But it is all computer generated on the size that they use, and that's why the engineering firms have to have the blessing of transportation before this ever gets implemented.
Councillor Blatz, then Harper.
Thank you for that bit of information, because I also believe it is a roundabout roundabouts that are in the town of Sundre, and we've all heard the complaints and criticisms for those. So I'm truly hoping that these specifications will work, because otherwise it's not going to eliminate any of the congestion that we have at 54th Street or at the high school, because people just won't go that way. If it's going to be a trouble to go in the roundabout, they'll just come in the normal way they came, and I don't believe that will help our situation. So I'm hoping that the specifications are better than what were in the town of Sundre.
All right, Councillor Harper, then Overwater. Okay, Councillor Overwater first, yeah.
Thank you, Worship. Okay, are they circles or roundabouts in Sundre? What are they? They're circles.
Circles.
So then our roundabout would be quite more, it would be quite larger than what is happening in Sundre, which, I mean, Sundre has a lot of big trucks and everything going through there with, heavy loads of lumber, and I'm sure they have 2 tractor trailer attachments or whatever you want to call them. And I mean, they're totally destroying those circles there. So that's not going to happen on 2A, is it?
Thanks.
Director
No, and it's tough to compare us with the town of Sundre and what's going on there. Those were there to try and fit into existing infrastructure that's there. We're building something brand new that we have a little bit of real estate to be able to make that bigger. If you do notice the design of the ones in Sundre, they're very low profile and they have very cambered edges. So they are designed that a larger truck will not actually make the circle, is that when they do cut, the wheels are allowed to go up on onto those mounds and continue off. If you look at a lot of other circles, they have the road width, then they have basically like a rolled curb or a low profile curb with concrete or paving stones or whatever, and that is what that is designed for. For 95% of the vehicles that are passenger vehicles or smaller trucks, they stay on the pavement, But with the larger trucks, when they're longer, when they have that cut in, they're designed that they go up on the curb a little bit and go through. So that is why they design, the way you look at it is that, there's pavement, a small curb with concrete, and then you actually end up with the very center with its decorations, whether it's grass or some type of ornaments there. They're specifically designed for like that people, they can ride up on the curb. So we can't compare this one with what's happening in Sundre. They're two separate items, and that's what we have to keep sight of, that there are two separate total designs.
Excellent. Thank you. Councillor Harper.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. And I'm not going to compare the roundabout to the Sundre ones because they did, as part of the press release, used the traffic roundabout at the town of Sylvan Lake along that secondary highway as an example. And once again, that's to Alberta Transportation specifications. And it is my understanding from these same professional truck drivers that the circumference of that particular one is still not good enough, large enough for the semi-trailer trucks. And I was thankful that Director Chat made mention about the center being decorative or whatever. It's my understanding the Sylvan Lake one lasted less than a week before it was destroyed because the semi-trailer trucks could not round about it. So we need to make sure if we're doing it, we do it right, and we do it bigger than what Alberta Transportation actually suggests. That's all I'm going to say.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I totally agree with that. I mean, if we're gonna do it, let's do it right. I wanna make sure, I mean, it's, the whole thing is for the trucks to get into the industrial area. It would be ridiculous for us to build something that those trucks can't get around. So let's make sure that we have the good specifications. We go, if we have the land available, let's build it a little bit bigger than what is spec'd out by Alberta Transportation so that those trucks can get around.
Okay. Fair enough. Excellent. Councillor Overwater.
Thank you, Your Worship. Well, I think we have to also realize there's a certain amount of money, and depending on how much bigger we want to go, that
Will that affect the cost?
that will definitely affect the cost. So I think maybe we need to have some costs come back to us to say how much, if we go this much bigger, then that's going to cost us this much, and are we willing to do that? And I understand, I mean, we're building for the future, so we should, do it right the first time, because I would really hate to have to dig it up, and that would really make me mad.
Absolutely. Would it be possible to have some costing and some various sizes above what Alberta Transportation has for our P&P in December when we talk about the capital budget?
Don't know if I'd be able to get them that quick for the 14th of December, for P&P in December, but definitely going to ask that question. It's not exponential, of course, on, if it's, twice the size, it's twice the cost.
Yeah.
But we will definitely have our engineer tech look at that and just give some information for us on our P&P of what it was designed to. I know they like to use acronyms, like about WB21. That is a tractor unit with two trailers and the curvature arch and things like that. But, it does go back to speed. With these units, if you do not slow down, they will not turn that radius. We've had this in similar other designs where computer-generated models are great, but if they don't put the correct information in and slow the vehicle down, it'll never make any corner. So that's we just have to make sure that they've got all of that details for you. So we'll see what we can do to have more information come back for our budget deliberations at P&P.
Sorry?
Your Worship, do we need a motion to direct administration to bring that back to us?
No, I think we're okay on that one, aren't we, CAO?
No, we'll bring it back to you for information, because this is just coming out of the minutes of the meeting.
Yep. Okay. Excellent. Councillor Thompson.
And Your Worship, I raised a potential topic earlier in the day for discussion around council's budget and the remuneration committee. And you'd mentioned that that'll come back at P and P. Do we need to have a motion to that, or will that just come as process?
That's part of our budget discussion.
Thank you very much.
Yep. All right, let's move along to bylaws. Bylaw 5A, CAO.
Thank you, Your Worship. This bylaw is in regards to the Town of Olds Municipal Development Plan. It's something that we've been working towards for the past number of years in association with the intermunicipal development plan, so that they would go hand in hand and be able to be passed in a relatively same period of time. We are certainly on target to do that, and I'll ask Mr. Craig Teal to come and just speak to, this is the first reading, and then we'll be asking for an approval to have a public hearing as well.
Well, it's sensitive enough when you turn it on. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, to Your Worship, members of council. So after a long and windy road, yes, the MDP is finally here for first reading. We did put it aside for a while to allow other plans to catch up, but now it's time to pick up where we left off and look at what the update of the town's overall blueprint for building the town from the current population of around 9,000 to 10,000 people, first getting to a mid-stage of around 18,000 in the next 20 years, possibly growing to 36,000, another generation beyond that point. So what we are talking about is a very long-range plan that looks at how do we want to build our community, what uses and activities will be directed where, what kind of major infrastructure do we need, such as roadway corridors, open space areas, to facilitate that future type of growth. We talk about things like neighborhood design, industrial park design, commercial area design, and all of that is built upon the vision that we desire for our community to either maintain or become over the next, say, 30 or so years. It's not a plan that we actually set in motion once and then don't look back over 25 years. It does periodically come up for review. The general rule of thumb is maybe every 5 years. Given our 3 years, it's more like accurate, more every 10, depends what's coming up. Definitely tries to anticipate issues that may come before council, but there's also always a possibility of amending and changing things if something that we really didn't foresee that looks really too good to pass up comes forward, and then the MDP gives you the context in which to make those kind of decisions. So the purpose of today's presentation is really just to introduce it generally. I know as council members you've been involved in the workshops and the open houses to get to this point over the previous 3 years. And it's now time to move forward, in our view, to the last formal public review and consideration of the proposed MDP, which and the final decision of the council will come back in the context of a public hearing where members of the public have a chance to see the proposed material, if it's given first reading, react to it, maybe come to council and speak directly to it, or send in their comments. So this is the last round of public review before council's final decision following the public hearing. I won't touch on all the things that we changed in the MDP. There's a 3-page, 4-page attachment that talks about some of the big things that were changed in the land use concept. And actually, maybe if you could scroll to that, that's a very back page, thank you very much. I'll try to touch on one or two things, and then it goes on some of that's the one I want, yeah. It goes on to talk about the text changes. People will have to compare the 2007 version to the 2020 version if they want to see the exact change, so it's really very much just the highlights that we were making some tweaks in various areas. So the graphic that's up on the screen right now is the future land use concept. So this is the most interesting graphic in the entire document. It is intended to keep it slim and a workable document, focuses mostly on text policies, and it basically tries to communicate where do we see the town of Olds growing and what form will that growth take in various directions. So some of the changes that we made compared to 2006 or 2007 version was looking at how much industrial land the town needs over the long term. And certainly when you're looking at that upper right-hand corner, there's around the town office, quite a large area of purple. That's for future industrial. Previously that was residential, so that was displaced as we try to get a little bit deeper into what our long-term needs for industrial commercial would need. That meant we displaced some residential area, and we still wanted to have that population threshold around 32 to 36,000. So that led to the strip of 4 quarter sections across the very north part of Olds for future residential growth. And we are talking about going beyond the town boundaries at this point. We're not planning on doing that overnight. That's where the IDP comes into place, and these two plans have to work together. The IDP is our agreement with the county that is going to public hearing on Wednesday that says, based on the town's growth, what lands in the county have to be protected or set aside to facilitate that future growth. And that's where these two plans merge together. If you wanted to find out what happens in the urban fringe area of the IDP, you really have to come back to this document to say, oh yeah, they're planning a future industrial park. It's not binding on the lands beyond the town's current boundary. We note that very much in the document. But it's also sometimes important to look at that, take that long-term view, that big picture view of things, because it may influence how we choose to deal with some of the lands within our current boundaries. So certainly the residential we put in was, we added some school sites to go with that, with the anticipated population. We removed a school site from the area south of No Frills, and any new additional residential areas, we made sure that we tried to anticipate that future large open space need for, say, some 6,000 students of the, between kindergarten and grade 12 that may be in the future population of 36,000 town. The area, the focusing on going to the north is largely because there's some constraints to the direct west and the southwest. So our ability to go far to the south is actually hampered by sour gas facilities as we close in on that direction, in addition to topographical challenges. So that's really why the future growth direction, once we fill in some of the other residential yellow areas that you see on that map, is to go northwards. And then if you're wondering, well, Craig, looking another generation beyond what you've already mapped out, where would be growing? And most likely would be continue on to the northward direction. The other things, I'm not going to go through all the text. There is some of the text changes. There's been more verbiage added to each topic area to give the reader a sense of what the significance of that topic is. What do we mean when we say heritage preservation or conservation or urban design? One of the notable actions or sections that's been added to the plan is the concept of a tree reserve. So that's in section 15, which is definitely an initiative the council has added to the plan to look at replicating the tree reserve in the southwest corner of Olds in the northwest and northeast areas long term. Now, it's long term in terms of the length of time it would take to grow a canopy in a forest area to be able to have that same kind of asset, but it's not long term in terms of the time frame to move ahead and negotiate the acquisition of the sites to do so, one of which is out beyond the town's boundaries, at least one within the town boundaries. So that is very much a significant initiative on the open space area, or a component of the community, to look at acquiring land for that specific purpose, in addition to using open space for future arenas, future ball diamonds, smaller parks and tot lots, and trail connections. So with that, Your Worship, there's probably a lot more we can say, but I'll hold the rest of my comments a little bit more elaborate. Sorry, there is one more I do want to touch on. I almost forgot. The coordination of major truck routes or transportation routes, the arterial road network, with land use is also one of the things we tried to achieve in this update. In between, after 2006, 2007, and 2010, the Bunt report, the transportation study, was undertaken, and that looked at the same population threshold and looked at what kind of arterial road network does the town need when it grows to that population. So that's where you see some of the thick black lines on the graphic that you see, and some critical points where if we don't manage them correctly, that long-term option will disappear, or could accidentally disappear if we put something in the way and block one of these traffic routes. And that's why we try to make sure that we coordinate those land use planning decisions with that space needed for future roads. With that, Your Worship, I will save the rest of my comments and encourage Council to give first reading to the proposed municipal development plan, and also to set January 25th at 1 p.m. as the public hearing date, time, and place.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Mr. Teal, for all your and your staff's hard work. This is an amazing document that we're putting forward here, and we appreciate, like I said, all your hard work on it. All right, may I start with a motion for first reading? Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Your Worship. I move that bylaw number 2020-14 to adopt the Town of Olds Municipal Development Plan be given first reading, and I do have a quick question.
Excellent. Start us out.
All right, thank you. On page 27, 5.17, we have the relocation of the waste transfer site, and I'm just wondering if we still need this within our MDP, because we have taken steps to remove the transfer site or any kind of transfer station that we would have in town, in the future by providing a bylaw that we did just recently. So I'm just wondering if we still needed that, and Mr. Teal, maybe you could speak to that.
Mr. Teal?
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I suppose on first reflection, if it didn't specifically reference the Mountain View Regional Waste Management Commission, which may or may not be the party still in control of the site, they are, then it's still a future intent. You just may be implementing it a lot faster. I don't see any harm in leaving it in.
Okay, excellent. Anybody else with questions or concerns? Councillor Harper?
I think it's more clarification, and this was in the preamble on page 18, where we talk about the need for more undeveloped land base for our commercial and industrial. And we are in the process of doing annexation right now, and I'm not sure if that preamble is still needed in there. I know that it's just clarification, where are we on the annexation process? And I'm okay with leaving those statements in by all means, but, so it's on the bottom of page 18 of our, do you see that there?
Document 18 on the agenda. And yeah, certainly the annexation is definitely making its progress. It too will follow hot on the heels of that public hearing. So it is kind of a snapshot in time. I would encourage the members to stay in there, because we still have to make our application to the province. And one of the things the province will be asking is, how does your annexation application correspond with your aspirations through your MDP? And where are your numbers?
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you. Councillor Thompson?
Thank you, Your Worship. On page 6 of the MDP, under 3, Vision and Principles, it states, Olds has developed a celebrated waste management system featuring the early adopter waste-to-energy policy. Is this, again, futuristic and something that needs to be completed, or is this a policy that's began in some way?
Mr. Teal?
I think I'll answer first. I think there's a contending operation as well. So all of that you see here is some of it's maintaining things that we want to be, some things it's things we like to work towards. And all of it starts with that lead-in clause, our vision of Olds at 2046. You're not going to accomplish everything in your MDP in the first 5 years. It is a long-range plan. Some things are encouraged to go quick. Some things may take a little longer to achieve. The important part of the vision is to try to get a sense of what all is that we're trying to work towards. And I'm not sure when exactly you may get to the waste-to-energy policy.
CEO?
That is currently a project that's underway for southern Alberta, which Town of Olds is a major player in and has provided quite a bit of support to the energy to waste group that has been formed. So it is very pertinent to our development.
Excellent. Thank you. Any further comments, questions, concerns? Councillor Harper?
Just a comment. I would like to thank all of our administration and Mr. Teal for all of the hard work. This has been a 3-year process, and I think we've achieved a lot in that, and it was unfortunate, but in a way fortunate, that we had to put it on hold for a little while to ensure that the IDP process was started, and we're going to see completion of that process, we hope, on Wednesday. So just want to congratulate everybody and thank them for all their hard work.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Councillor Harper? All right, we have a motion on the table. I'll call for a vote. All in favor? And opposed? And that motion is carried. Thank you so much. May I have a motion to set the public hearing, please? Councillor, sorry? Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Your Worship. I move that council sets Monday, January 25th, 2021 at 1 p.m. in council chambers as the date, time, and place for a public hearing on bylaw number 2020-14.
Excellent. Questions, comments, concerns on this motion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor and opposed? And that motion carries as well. Excellent. Thank you so much, Mr. Teal, again, for your incredible work on this document. I know this is something that council is very, very proud of. Thank you. All right, so that's item 5A. I think we had a little bit of confusion with the agenda with this closed session section in there. I believe we're dropping that below the rest of the bylaws, is that correct? or
We
is that-
would really like to go into a closed session immediately.
Okay.
In regards, because it's kind of on the heels of the last
The
presentation.
last presentation? Excellent,
Yes.
all right. So may I have a motion to go into closed session for the, I believe it's for the IDP and MDP?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Councillor Blatz.
I move that council moves into a closed session under FOIP Section 16, disclosure harmful to business interests of a third party. And might I ask who's staying in the room, council
Yes.
and?
I would like for Director Chant, myself, and Mr. Teal to stay in the room.
Okay,
Thank you.
excellent. It's 2:00, so I'll call the meeting back to order from the recess. I just want to reiterate that the closed session that we just took care of had to do with our IDP and our MDP, had nothing to do with mask bylaws. So we'll be getting to that particular item here in a few minutes, and that will be done in wide open council. All right, let's move along to item 5B, CAO.
Thank you, Your Worship. And 5B, we would like to have first reading of bylaw number 2020-19, as well as set a public hearing date of January 25th, 2021 at 1 o'clock in the council chambers to have the public hearing on this bylaw. And with that, I'll ask Director Chan to speak to this bylaw.
Thank you, through the chair. PCPS is working on this file as well, through Natasha Wright. As this was first reading, we didn't feel a need for her to attend in person today, as this is consideration. So just in the background of this one is, if you can see over in the southeast industrial area, they would like, under the definition, it falls under restaurant, but what they'd like to put in there is a coffee shop, and sort of take orders for lunches and serve the industrial community there as a little coffee shop setting. So as it is not in permitted or discretionary uses under this district, as that's why it's a site-specific amendment to allow for this. I guess one point of note, we did have something similar in the northeast industrial area a number of years ago. It was going to be a little, it was going to be a bakery, and then it was going to be a coffee shop in the front, and that was passed and was welcomed with open arms, but didn't take off and actually open up. So anyhow, this is in the other end of town for this consideration for council. That's why it's here today for first reading and setting the public hearing date.
Thank you so much. All right, let's start with a bylaw or a motion for the first reading. Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Your Worship. I move that council gives first reading to bylaw number 2020-19.
Excellent. Comments, questions, concerns with this one? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor and opposed? And that motion is carried. All right, may I have a motion for the public hearing? Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Your Worship. I move that council sets Monday, January 25th, 2021 at 1 p.m. in council chambers as the date, time, and place for public hearing on bylaw 2020-19.
Excellent. Questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, I'll call for the votes. All in favor and opposed? Motion is carried. All right. Let's keep moving along to item 5C. So, we've had quite an outpouring of emails and communications with regards to this next item on our agenda. It is a proposed indoor public spaces mask bylaw. I want to reiterate to the public that I know that this is a massively contentious issue on both sides. I don't remember our community ever being as polarized on anything as I have seen in the past little while with regards to any issue that has come forward to council. So I do want to ask the public to please, maybe if we can, lower the temperature a little bit and respect everybody's opinion. Everybody is entitled to an opinion. Everybody is allowed to have an opinion, whether you agree with it or disagree with it. Please at least respect the fact that everybody does have their own opinion on this particular issue, and we all need to please respect everybody's opinion on this. Now, council will be making a decision on this issue, probably not today. I think what we want to do, and this will be up for debate here in a few minutes with council, is to piggyback on our special meeting on Wednesday by Zoom. so that we can allow, I see there's two people here in person that want to speak, and you will get to speak today because you've cleared your schedules to be here, so we will hear from you. But I think what we'll do is push off this decision to Wednesday and allow more people from the general public to sign up with regards to Zoom, and have a safe meeting that way where everybody can watch the debate and everybody has a chance to have their voices heard who wants to have their voices heard. I think it's imperative, especially with something this contentious, that council hears from everybody who wants to speak within the public sphere. So we'll set out some details on our website on how you can register to speak on Wednesday's meeting, and then council will listen to everybody, and then we will have the debate amongst ourselves and render a decision with regards to the bylaw. I hope that sounds fair to council and to the public. So at this point in time, I'm going to structure it very much like we do with a lot of these public hearings that we have. So I'll ask the individuals who are here in the audience today. Sorry?
Should we, as administration, at least do a brief presentation?
Yes, oh yeah, we will do that. We'll ask the individuals that have taken the time out to come here today, just to come up, state your name, where you live, and speak for about 2 minutes, not more than 2 minutes if at all humanly possible. And then we'll allow council to ask questions for clarification purposes only. We don't want to get into a debate or a cross-examination of whoever's presenting, but if we're not clear on something that we need some clarification on, then council can ask questions to the individual that's making that presentation with regards to that. So right now, yes, Councillor Overwater, before we have administration make a presentation.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I've got several emails from
Yes.
people as well.
Yes.
And I specifically responded and said that council would be debating today on that, on this topic.
Yep.
So are you saying we won't be debating it today?
Well, we can certainly
need
have a bit of a
clarity.
debate today, but there were individuals that were hoping to be able to speak via Zoom as well. And I think it's best that we push this off a day or two so that we can accommodate those individuals as well. We didn't want to be inundated with 40 people when we can't have them all here, and everybody can't listen and hear at the same time as being able to speak. So if we do it in a Zoom format, then everybody gets to watch, everybody gets to hear everybody's discussion, and then everybody gets to hear our debate internally. Councillor Bennett?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just think that that's a good plan because Dr. Dina Hinshaw is speaking at 2 o'clock and Jason Kenney will be speaking tomorrow morning, so he may have new mandates to begin with, so.
Okay, no, excellent.
Thanks.
Very good topic. Yes, Councillor Ryan.
Sorry, thank you, Your Worship. Just for clarification, so would you want to do a first reading at all today? Is that what you're
Yes.
hoping?
Yeah.
You want to start that off, or do you want to have administration first?
Well, we'll have administration
Okay,
first, then I'll
thank
take a
you for
motion
the
for first
clarification.
reading. Yep. CAO, unless there's somebody else that wanted to talk before? No? Okay.
Thank you, Your Worship. I wouldn't mind if Director Powell would come up to the seat beside the legislative clerk. Because in consultation with our emergency management staff, which Director Powell is the head of, administration is bringing forth this mask bylaw. In absence of a provincial mandate in regard to masks, the town modeled this bylaw after other municipalities, what they have put forth in the last number of months in regards to a mask bylaw. So while not identical to anyone, it is similar to others. It is also modeled after the Chief Medical Officer for the province of Alberta. We do use AHS as our basically information source for our emergency management in regards to COVID-19. And also, this bylaw was based on a legal opinion that we received from our legal advisors in regards to this. And with that, I would like for Director Wagstaff to speak a little bit more specifically about a few elements of the bylaw before we have a discussion.
Oh, sorry. Director Wagstaff first.
So I want to reiterate that from the onset of the public health crisis, our information and guidance is consistently being from the official sources of Alberta Health and the Chief Medical Officer of Health for Alberta. We're not doing our own research into the science and the use of masks. There are plenty of opinions, both alternative expert opinions and other opinions on all sides. Our authority on preventative measures is the recommendations and orders from the Government of Alberta. To be clear, the Town of Olds uses the Chief Medical Officer of Health of Alberta and Alberta Health as the authority on these matters. I do want to point out the highlights to the specific Olds bylaw. There is an age exemption for children under the age of 9. We came to this age set number due to the school systems in Olds are using grade 4 and below grade 4 as an exemption for mask requirements for children. Another highlight is that this bylaw would be immediately in effect if passed in town-owned or leased facilities. It is based on enhanced zone trigger data from Alberta Health, so that it is independent data that is driven and reported right now daily while we are in enhanced from Alberta Health. And it has a 30-day sunset clause to provide stability to avoid going in and out on day-to-day reporting. It gives an opportunity for things to be leveled off as it is triggered, and then would give some time after a clearance happens to ensure that we would be through a period of time in our community that we would be out of an enhanced category. As it was mentioned, this bylaw has been reviewed by our legal counsel. However, there is one thing I'd like to draw to your attention before we have council get into the discussion on the merits of the bylaw as a whole. I do recommend an amendment to the age exemption that is in the bylaw as presented. It's been a while since I've had kids that were in elementary school, and I erred in calculating the age of a child who is in grade 4. I did not recognize that U9, as we have at the Sportsplex, as we have been recommending for a couple of months now, is 7 and 8 year olds. So I do apologize, for that error. That was in the bylaw under section 4.2A. To align with our intentions, it should read, as amended, children under the age of 9 years. I wanted to ensure that that amendment was presented to council prior to any discussions on the bylaw as a whole.
Thank you very much, Director Wagstaff. Mr. Powell.
Thank you, Your Worship. Some new technology for me here. Yeah, I just want to conclude that town staff, Jennifer Lutz and Director Wagstaff have done a significant amount of the heavy lifting and the research and the analysis on this. We can take you back to March. We actually looked at having in place and on the shelf the thoughts of perhaps what if we were facing a higher degree of spread and a higher degree of impacts with our community, and what are our long-range strategies. And then back in the days, there was no mathematical metrics provided to us by the province that put us in these enhanced status that they exist today, and to put us on these types of metrics that you can invoke a certain level of higher degree of need for masks or whatever you want to decide upon. And again, we are following the recommendations of the province. It is not a mandated issue today that we're aware of. It is encouraged and recommended that we look at this, and then we also sit back at an emergency management group within our community and look very carefully that Olds has a very specific demographic that is very, very vulnerable to this virus. And so for that reason, placed a great deal of I guess, need and desire to want to push this particular type of bylaw through. And understanding it is contentious, understanding it is frustrating, but also we're not making the science up here. We are making the recommendations and just pursuing them, making sure that we're providing Olds the safest community we can.
Thank you very much, Director Powell. All right, may I have a motion for first reading, please? Councillor Overwater.
Thank you, Worship. Yes, I move that first reading be given to bylaw 2020-20 indoor public spaces mask bylaw. As amended.
As amended. Perfect. Thank you. All right. Questions, comments, concerns with, we'll have the debate first and then vote? No? Yeah. After the second readings. Okay, very good. All right. So questions, comments, concerns on the, yes, Councillor Harper.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Just a point of clarification. If a mask bylaw is not passed, does that mean that we can't mandate the wearing of masks in our town facilities?
It means we can strongly recommend, but there would not be an enforcement mechanism for either our peace officers, which include both RCMP and community peace officers, nor anything for our staff to refer to as an enforcement measure. It would be voluntary compliance.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Your Worship. On page 85 of the bylaw, I would like to see under section 4.2, B, persons unable to wear a mask due to mental or physical concern, limitation, or protected ground. What I'd like to see added would be,
Point of order.
sorry, are we
Should
not
we-
allowed to discuss the
No,
actual
No,
amendment to a bylaw?
no. On second reading, we haven't voted on first.
But, so let's get clarification on whether or not we can make an amendment to the first reading of the bylaw.
Can I speak to this? Due to the nature of the mayor's opening comments, I believe that you should have a discussion after first reading of this bylaw before we get into the second reading. Typically, we would want, first reading is just for basically the tabling if it makes sense and if it's within the realm of municipal responsibility. But due to the nature that we are not going to debate all three and ask for unanimous consent, it would probably be best we start off again on Wednesday with the start of a second reading, but have a discussion on the first reading today. I think that's well within our norm to do so, legislative clerk, and just because of the special circumstance, and I wasn't sure, I didn't have the information that Councillor Bennett had passed around, but I think that's some pertinent information to know what's going to happen from the province if there's going to be adjustments to it. So I think it's an opportune time for the public that came here to speak. They should be, it seems like council would like them to speak, and for council to give some discussion or direction to staff if we have to make any adjustments, so to speak, because we are doing so.
Okay. So the end result is, are we
vote.
talking about potential amendments right now, or wait till the second reading on that one?
I think you can talk about where your concerns are, so those would be potential amendments.
Okay.
So we still need to vote on first reading.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So let's vote on yes, Councillor Blatz.
So I just would like clarification then that we're only going to make amendments to the bylaw, and any comments that we have, we will wait till second reading?
We'll be bringing no amendments back. We'll
Okay.
be listening to what you have to say, and then you'll continue your debate on Wednesday.
Perfect, thank you.
But that's after we have a chance to receive more information from the public, and as well as if the public wishes to speak to it.
Yes, and I would prefer that process as well. Thank you.
Excellent. Councillor Thompson, something different?
Yes, Your Worship. I just wondered how many requests we had to defer the discussion. I know we came today, we published that this was going to take place. Was there many? Have people registered requesting that we delay?
I have approximately 200 emails on my desk, for and against the issue, and that's why internally we've thought that it would be best to hear from anybody who would want to speak to the issue, so we give it a little bit extra time. Didn't want
Thanks
to
for
go
that.
too far because obviously this decision needs to be made quickly, and then we can go from there. Yes, Count?
Yeah, and the agenda was only released on Friday of this week, so people didn't have a whole lot of time to basically gather their thoughts on it. Secondly, because we are in a COVID situation, there's limited spacing, and so we did inform people that phoned in that we would have to do some monitoring, so we didn't want people to be left out in case there was more than 8 people that came to the meeting today, that if they came and there was a dozen people, we would have to ask after they had a chance to speak to leave, so other people could come in and speak to the matter, and therefore they may have missed part of the discussion and debate, so I do think that's a reason for delaying it for a secondary day. It's still up to council to make that decision.
Councillor Overwater.
Will this be, thank you, Your Worship, will this be going on the website and social media so that everybody does know that? Because I don't think everybody really understood what was going to happen today. I was fully prepared that we were going to make a motion and vote today.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, no, we'll certainly get it out to the public for sure.
and I would just like to reiterate, I have talked to our neighbors, Carstairs, Didsbury, Cremona County, Sundre, and none of them have put in bylaws. They have made public statements that they are going to only go along with what AHS and the government has stated. So just want
All right,
people to
well,
know.
let's vote on first reading, and then we'll hear from the two public that are here, then we'll hear from the debate on proposed amendments, and then we'll talk about it on Wednesday. Sound fair? Okay, Councillor Platts? Yeah, no, for sure. All right, so we have a motion on the table for first reading. I'll call for a vote. All in favor? And opposed? No votes? You're in favor? All right, so that's, all right, first reading is passed. So now, at this point, who's first through the door? Or who would like to go first for a bit of a speaking? Sorry? Yeah.
Ready?
All right, so if you could,
Yeah, I think so. Can you hear me? Okay, excellent. Okay, first of all, thank
your
you.
name and where you live,
Yeah.
and
Jacqueline Martin is my name. I live in Olds. Thank you for having me and having the opportunity to speak. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for taking the responsible approach, I believe, by allowing a public hearing to take place. Because, in my personal belief and what I've always been educated on is that the government acts in the voice and the will of the people, not the other way around. So appreciate that. Also, too, I to speak more of the polarization factor that's happening in all over. It's not our community, it's our country, it's our world right now. And seeing the division and the abuse that goes along with that division when we live in a free country, meaning that I can choose to wear my mask and keep myself safe and you can choose to wear yours, or vice versa, is what I see to keep the climate cool, to keep people in their best behavior, and to avoid having to talk about future and extenuating bylaws as to how to deal with people that are breaking law in other ways, such as bullying or, that type of thing in public. And for those of us that have mental illnesses that prevent us from being able to wear the mask, we're ridiculed like you would not believe. It's not up to us to explain to you what PTSD is and how it prevents you from doing a lot of things in life, even speaking in front of people sometimes. But it's definitely real. And pardon me, but what I've seen out there is we have a huge problem in our society still about how people view mental illness, and this mask has certainly brought it out, and it's nasty. A lot of us are dealing with anxiety of astronomical proportions because of this pandemic and the restrictions that have been put on our life, not to mention the fear that is perpetrated at us from every angle over, in my opinion, something that only a small portion of every one of our communities, not to say that there aren't more, or communities with more at-risk people than others, but every community has elderly, every community has autoimmune disease people, people with other underlying health concerns. So to say that one community in particular, you know, is at a higher risk versus the other, I think that's just negligent. I don't think that's real. But I think it's important to allow the freedom that we live with in this country, and why most of us love this country, I think, and even this province, this town, is what's going to keep everyone in unison and harmony and stop this further divide. I think that mandates create more division, that just create absolute chaos, stuff that you can't measure from a meeting today as to what will happen if this goes into place. But I do believe that we're smart, responsible people in this community and all over this country, and I think we know what to do to protect ourselves, and I think that we should have more talk about what we can do with our personal health in preventing any sickness, not just COVID-19. So that's all I have to say today, and I thank you very much.
Excellent, thank you. Just hang tight in case there's any questions. Just for clarity, again, we're not going to cross-examine, but yes, Councillor Blatt.
No questions for you, but I just want to say thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
very, very, very much for being here today. Yes, CAO.
It's just a point of clarification that this is not a public hearing, but the council has wanted to hear from the public, so have allowed for the public to speak. But
Yeah.
it doesn't follow the same rules as a public hearing would do.
No, but similar. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. All right, we have somebody else. Wait for the Zoom Wednesday? All right, thank you very much. All right, so Councillor Ryan, you have some proposed amendments.
Thank you, Your Worship. Actually, I just had one, do I have one or two? Hang on, yeah, it's two. So, I'll just speak at one and then allow other people to speak as well. But if we were going to pass this bylaw, I would like to see that, that we have persons who are unable to wear masks due to underlying medical condition added in there. I don't think just saying due to mental or physical concern covers that entirely, and so I would like to add that extra piece. And that way, you know, we're covering all the bases and allowing people who do have some type of physical barrier or medical condition or a mental condition to be exempt from this, from wearing masks. The other thing I noticed in, oh, sorry, go ahead. No, sorry, I promised I would only speak on one, so there you go.
Councillor
Thank you.
Blatt, yeah.
Thank you. Nobody else, I didn't butt in front of anybody else. Okay. Number 3, in effect, and it says shall remain in effect until 30 days after the number of cases in the town is less than 10. Most of the research I've done over the weekend and looking at other communities was 14 days. So I'm just wondering if that, and I would leave it up to the authorities such as Brian perhaps and Doug that work in it all the time, but that seems to be the norm at other communities. So I wonder if that can be a consideration as well. I mean, that's only if this passes, we'd have to consider that, but that seemed to be the norm in all the communities that I looked at and that have already passed a bylaw such as this.
Yeah, and if I could touch on that a little bit, and we worked on that again and again, and what somewhat prevails on this type of situation is the fact that the compliance rate on rescinding and having to reapply and turns into a bit of a yo-yo effect, and we end up with extremely frustrated individuals in there. I think the audible that is in this bylaw written is the opportunity for both either the CAO or the DEM to rescind this while the bylaw is still in play, and so I think it will capture some of that piece. But the big wonder that came about in this discussion of the penciling of this was the what if we drop below 10, and then 13 days, in 16 days, it goes back over. And so that was where it's just going to give you a larger window.
Very good. Director Wagstaff.
And as was outlined in risk consequences, point number 3 in the request for decision, that there is a time lag between when people get infected and the new case is identified. We did realize that the 14 days was based off of that 14-day quarantine. And one of the things that was identified by emergency management and was picked up on in a briefing note that we had received was that that was one of the trigger points that was being reconsidered because as Director of Emergency Management Powell had pointed out. So that was what that risk consequence point 3 was speaking to.
Thank you, Director Wagstaff. I did read that, but I just noted that other communities have only put 14 days in, so I'd rather have public clarification on it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Very good, thank you. CAO.
Just want a clarification myself, because we originally did have the CAO and the Director of Emergency Management being able to adjust this, but that was one of the recommendations from our legal counsel, was to not put that in. Too many COVID-related items are given powers to the CAO and whatever, so they would like it to be based on the triggers that were outlined as opposed to having that specific power to myself.
All right.
Did I get that right, Director Wagstaff?
That is correct. It was concerning from our legal counsel that there is a trend, and they have seen it passed in a number of bylaws, but their advice and their opinion was to avoid going down that road and ensuring that it was directly attributable to some hard data points.
Excellent. Okay, any further discussion on proposed amendments? Legislative clerk first.
Thank you. Just a point of clarity from Councillor Ryan on point 4.2 sub B. What is it that you wanted added? What words? Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to see added under point B, persons unable to wear a mask due to underlying medical condition or mental or physical concern or limitation, etc.
Okay. All right, captured. Yep. Councillor Thompson. Oh, sorry. Let's stay on this point. Director Wagstaff first, then Councillor Thompson.
And I'll just say this the one time, so I won't repeat it with any other amendments that may come forward. We will do our best to have these looked at by legal prior to them coming in, just to ensure that they line up to a legal perspective.
Standards. Excellent, thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think my comment just, when we, even just by talking about the difference in timelines from 14 days to 30 days and how we would enforce, I think the challenge with us even having that conversation today is that really the question before council is whether we believe it is council's place to mandate this decision, whether it's our decision to encourage or to enforce. And I think that's a big differentiation for me in the conversation today. So I don't want to get too detailed into a bunch of changes before we determine it's council's place or this council wants to create a bylaw.
I'll respectfully disagree with you on that. I think we need to have something ready if we do decide that this is something we're going. So let's tweak it to the point where everybody's happy with it, and of course legal has a chance to weigh in on it. Then if we decide that that's something we're going to input, then it's ready to go. All right, Councillor Ryan.
Your Worship, I'll bow to Councillor Overwater since I've had my first time.
I did see that out of the corner of my eye late. Yes,
Thank you,
Councillor
Worship.
Overwater.
I know how Councillor Blatz feels now, and I sit up really tall in my chair, so I don't know how you can't see me. But anyways.
It's a tennis match in here.
Okay, so I have many comments that I want to make. Are you stating that I should wait until Wednesday? I just need to make sure that I have clarity on this so that I'm prepared.
Okay, if it is to do with the bylaw, with the way the bylaw reads, if it's potentially passed, then we should make those today so that
Okay.
administration can capture them. If it's a debate on whether to allow the bylaw or not, then let's wait until Wednesday. Is that clear?
I do have a comment then.
Okay,
On enforcement, offenses, and penalties, who do we believe is going to be able to enforce this?
Okay.
And the money's towards enforcing it. Our bylaw people right now are busy doing what they do, and I guess maybe this is another situation where I should wait till Wednesday, but, you know, that's my biggest thing, is if you have a bylaw, you gotta be able to enforce it. So where's the money gonna come from in order to enforce that? And I don't wanna see riots out in the street. I don't wanna see our bylaw officers being, you know, attacked or whatever. And that does happen. I mean, not saying, I mean, we are a nice little town, but, you know, this is a very contentious subject, and, you know, I don't want our bylaw people, you know, accosted or anything like that. So I think we need to, you know, make sure that we're thinking about that if this bylaw passed.
fair enough. No, that's a good question for this point in time. CAO or Director Wagstaff?
My understanding is obviously it would be our peace officers that would be enforcing, as well as the RCMP would be able to do so as well, as it would be our bylaw. Director Wagstaff?
And again, the first primary piece of any enforcement spectrum is to begin with education and awareness. So it's designed, even in the language that we've used and discussed with legal, as they have been in many of the other bylaws, that the primary focus is on the education and making people aware. As we have seen from this past weekend, there's a lot of compliance in the voluntary part of the compliance. That does only go so far when you're talking about those who would not be compliant, that would need to be compliant within the bylaw. That's the enforcement measure that we'd be looking at. It would begin with individuals in the community, you know, businesses and that sort of thing, just making people aware that we have the bylaw, a press that we would educate people that there's awareness that there's a bylaw in place. The bylaw officers aren't going to be out going on patrol looking for people wearing or not wearing masks. If they're called to their attention that there's a repeat or a particular problem, then they'll go to that location or that site and investigate. Or if in their regular patrols while they're dealing with other bylaw matters or traffic matters, if they see that there's a reminder needed, that's how they'd first approach it. So they're not going to be going out and looking for this. They're going to continue their regular duties, and in the course of doing that, if they come across it, they would begin with a reminder and then go from there.
Excellent, thank you. Councillor Harper?
I'm not sure if my comments should, or questions should be addressed today or wait until Wednesday. I'm sort of like Councillor Overwater that way, not sure. So I'm going to ask it anyways. Was there a contemplation by our administration that perhaps instead of going this route for town-wide public spaces mask bylaw, they start with our own facilities? Because I'm getting the understanding now that even though it was highly recommended, it wasn't enforceable. So in our own facilities, were people doing the right thing by wearing a mask in our own facilities to start out with?
Director Wagstaff?
We were finding compliance within our facilities. Where we were encountering some pushback was for those who would not wear it. Then those who would normally be compliant and helpful, you know, with our staff, are going, and I'll be blunt here with council and the public. If you're not going to have the jerk over here who's being a jerk openly, comply within your facility, how come who I choose, if I choose not to wear one, but I'm wearing it because I am complying with your signage and your ask, your request, what do we do in circumstances like that within our own facilities? So that is one of the challenges that we have encountered. It's not the en masse. For the most part, we are having some strong support in compliance within our facilities. The Sportsplex is the one that we've instituted in. So within the Sportsplex, which is the only place that we have mandated, or what we've requested, requirement to wear a mask to come into the Sportsplex, we've had, good cooperation, very strong cooperation from the user groups and good cooperation from the public. But it has been noted that in the cases where people are, bordering on being belligerent, that we don't have a bylaw then to back up and say, this is why you shall, or please leave our facility, or we will call a peace officer to come and handle you, just as we would with some other behaviors, but we do have bylaws that will cover those.
Okay, excellent. Anybody else wish to speak before we move along? I'll check with anybody who hasn't spoken yet. Councillor Bennett, did you? No? All right, Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Your Worship. I do agree with Councillor Harper with regards to perhaps doing this just within our own facilities, but on the other hand, I noticed, and I did get questioned by a few people with regards to what is missing out of the bylaw, if we were going to pass it, would be for businesses. So I wouldn't want to put businesses in a position where they're trying to enforce something like this. Certainly, I don't think that would be anything that our council would want to do, but we don't have anything in the bylaw that addresses the businesses and saying that we don't want, businesses to go out there and to enforce. I was at the market the country market on Saturday, and the requirement was to go through the door, and as everybody was screened, and I'm sure some of the people here were actually at that market. And I'd say 99% of the people complied with wearing the mask in the market. There were a couple of people who did not, but it ran fairly well, and our senior constable had walked through several times during the day, chatted to him a few times, and he said the compliance was high, so everything went smoothly. So maybe, perhaps, I don't know whether or not we should be putting something in here about businesses and whether that would cover ORE or any kind of, like the college or a hotel that is having an event of a bigger proportion, that they should recommend that people get screened before they go into those things. I don't know, but there is something missing out of the bylaw that I wanted to suggest, that if something was going to be done to include the businesses, because I did have a couple of people who talked to me and said that it was missing out of here, so.
Excellent.
You know,
Thank you,
and also, in speaking about the bylaw officer, so has he even looked at this?
The answer is absolutely. The bylaw officer has seen this and has been contributing to it. I'll let Director Wagstaff speak to the other point you basically raised in regards to business, as that has been thought through as well. So, Director Wagstaff.
So the bylaw, Section 5, duty of an operator. That is, operator is the operator of a site, which would be a business. And their requirement is to ensure that the advertising, the awareness of the bylaw is in place, that it's set in a prominent location for staff, or for patrons and staff as they enter their facility. In a bylaw, we wouldn't state things that they do not need to do. We only state the things that they do need to do. This is the only requirement of a business, is to ensure that they make aware by using the consistent poster that is supplied in the bylaw, in the schedule that are attached, so that the same poster would be used in every business in every public space location to ensure that there's a consistency in acknowledging what that awareness is. That is the extent of a business. They're not expected to deny any services. They're not expected to do anything other than make people aware that there is a bylaw in the town of Olds, and that is to the extent of their responsibility legally. They individually, as individuals who are in a public space, would be falling under this bylaw, but that is not the business, that is the individual in a public space.
Thank you, Director Wagstaff. Councillor Overwater.
Thank you, Your Worship. So if the business itself doesn't want to enact wearing masks, which, you know, there's been a lot of chatter about some businesses are not in favor of wearing masks. In this economic time, I think business owners, they've got to make their decision for themselves. And, you know, I'm just really having a hard time with this whole mask thing. You know, due to our neighbors, like I said, they're already saying that they're not passing bylaws. They are just making a very bold statement that they're following along with AHS and the provincial government, and they are, you know, that's what they're going to follow. They're not mandating anything. They're not doing a bylaw. So, I mean, I guess I'll have to wait and see what the public says.
This is more of a discussion for Wednesday. Yeah, all right. Any further clarification on the proposed bylaw? Councillor Thompson.
So just a couple things for our viewing public then. So if I understand correctly, a business in this instance that did not have a poster up requiring masks at their door could be, or in their premise as directed, could be fined $200. An individual in a public space or a public vehicle that is not wearing a mask could be fined $100. That this bylaw does not in any way contradict what Alberta Health Services has created for guidelines in schools, hospitals, daycares, for people with illness, or the many other exclusions. This is a bylaw that enables the municipality to enforce what Alberta Health Services has encouraged. Correct?
Director Wagstaff? Or
I saw the CAO going for his mic first, but it's an auction, I guess. That is correct. Alberta Health strongly recommends the use of masks in public spaces.
excellent. All right. Any other clarifications? No? All right. So anyone wishing to address council on the mask bylaw this next Wednesday is requested to register in advance of November 25th meeting. And the way you can do that is through our legislative clerk at an email address, legislation@olds.ca. Sorry? Legislative, okay, T-I-V-E. Okay, LEGISLATIVE @olds.ca. Okay, once again, it is LEGISLATIVE @olds.ca if you'd like to speak. Okay, I think I got that right now. Yes, Councillor Bennett.
Thank you. So if we're to always follow a process, I want to do another point of order because
Okay.
first reading is a test of whether or not we want to see the bylaw in place. And it's not the time for amendments or debate. That's only when it's second reading. You can debate, make amendments, and that's the time we should have been doing this. And of course, we want to hear from the public, but we still need to follow the process.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. All right, any other questions, comments, concerns before we move along in the agenda? Yes, Councillor Overwater.
Thank you, Worship. So you'll be putting this on the website and social media as to the time and the Zoom number and everything that people can call in on?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Excellent. Okay, so let's move along to item 5D, CAO.
5D is the 2021 Elections Bylaw, 2020-18. I believe the RFD basically outlined a lot of the components of this Elections Bylaw, and it also addressed the issue of signage in the town, but I'll ask the legislative clerk to speak to Bylaw 2020-18.
Thank you, CAO. Yes, a lot of the items that you'll see in red are, in definitions are from the Act, as well as some housekeeping just for clarity. We also, of course, changed our dates. They've extended the nomination period to run from January 1st, or when your business is open, until 4 weeks out from the election instead of 6 weeks. So we only have 4 weeks as administration to get all the ballots ready from the end of close of nomination. Some newer things are, at any time during those 10 months, a candidate who has brought in their nomination forms can remove themselves or resign from the election. They do not have to continue to go, so that is a change as well. And I think the biggest pieces we were looking to council for was on the very close to the last page, page 10 of the bylaw, which would be, just give me a second here. Sorry. (106), thank you. Was the campaign material, the use of town logo, and then transparency are all brand new. Some of the pieces earlier are from 2017 that were not on the 2020 by-election and have been brought to the general election bylaw again. So you may not have seen them in the by-election, but they're back for the general election. And of course, the last pieces are public health and safety. And again, when this goes to legal, I guess we'll have confirmation if that's enough or if we need more. We don't know what next year will look like to run this election. Right now, Alberta does not allow for us to send out and run an electronic election. You can have electronic equipment at the facility where that counts the votes, but I can't take an elector's list and send you a number and then you go online and vote right now with Alberta. That is not allowed right now, but that doesn't mean that they won't change it by next year. And mail-ins are allowed. So there are options, but they're big options that would have to be like almost started to be worked on right now if we were looking at a mail-in or an elector's list registry type pieces. Right now, we go with what the government says for how you can vote, and as long as you show up in front of us and prove to us that you live in the jurisdiction with a power bill, you're good to go. Any type of bill. Whatever the ID says in there, that's what you're allowed to use to vote. So like, I think that's on page 5 of the bylaw, so that would be page, thank you, 101. It just you can literally walk in with a piece of paper and you don't have to have government ID to vote in our provincial elections. I think, and this is all, of course, again, specific to the 2021 election. And if we wanted deposits, now would be the time to add it. We haven't historically had deposits. The most we could ask for under 10,000 population would be a $100 deposit that would be refundable if they resign, pass away, and that's about it. Yeah, I think that's my highlights for now.
Thank you very much, Legislative Clerk. Sorry about that, a little tickle. Not COVID. All right, so we should have a reading for, or a motion for first reading.
Thank you, Your Worship. I recommend that first reading be given to Town of Old's 2021 Election Bylaw 2020-18 as presented, and I just have a comment.
Absolutely.
I think I would encourage staff then to be proactive to any possible changes, and if we feel that there's going to be a mail-in or some kind of electronic, it's probably in our best interest and our communities to seek further information on them. Thanks.
Councillor Overwater.
Thank you, Your Worship. Okay, is it only mandated that you can only have a deposit of $100? Like, it can't be any more, right?
That is correct. It's based on population. Over 10,000, they can ask for up to 1,000.
That's really too bad, because I think with having the election nomination from January to October, or September, I mean, you could, let's face it, last election, I mean, what was it, 19 people or 15 people, which is good. I mean, it's good to have lots of people, but, you know, I would hate to see administration spending time with, you know, a bunch of people running forward, just giving $100, and then at the end of just before election, oh, well, I want my $100 back, I've decided not to. You know, I wish it could be a higher fee, so we can't impose that ourselves.
That is correct. And anyone that puts their name in for 1 minute or all 10 months or right to completion still is mandated and requested to follow all of the forms and all of the financial disclosures and everything else still, as if they were running the full entire election. So they still do have that onus on them, and it's not the municipality's responsibility to prompt them to do any of that.
Excellent. Anybody else with questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none? Oh, yeah. Councillor Overwater.
Thank you, Worship. I like the idea of having signs not posted prior 6 weeks to the election, or 4 weeks prior to the election, due to the fact that we, as we've stated, I think before, we spend a lot of money on plants and boulevards, making them look beautiful, and I would hate to have a whole bunch of signage pollution all over the place for 10 months. I think that would, we might as well not spend any money on plants or beautification if we were going to allow that.
All right. Councillor Harper.
Just a question in reference to election signs, campaign material, and I was looking for a definition of campaign material, but I didn't see one. It must be defined. Oh, is there one?
I have one.
Oh, thank you.
I just found what I want to
Thank you.
add for that, which is why we're only bringing this for first. What I have, we'll manipulate it a bit, I'm thinking with Brownlee, but further to that, underneath that section, one of the pieces I do wish to add that I found that was great was candidates are prohibited from campaigning on the Town of Old's social media channels such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and that we remind all candidates to be respectful of the public as well as candidates while campaigning. Just another section we're going to add into there, but bringing more clarity, I wanted to add, and I'll add a definition for campaign materials.
And just one other step further,
Yes.
in reference to campaign material in town-owned facilities. And I think that part's lacking. I'm not sure. I don't know.
Well, there's, through the chair.
Yes,
Thank
please.
you. There are already pieces that say you can't post bulk notices at facilities. I thought I read that in the LUB. Did I not read something that you can't, like you have to have approved some, like notices have to be approved before they can be posted? Maybe I'm incorrect in that.
We'll check it.
Yep, no, something to research for sure. Before second reading, which is where we'll debate the final, or not final document, but the document presented there. Alrighty, any other questions, comments, concerns before we vote on the motion on the floor? Seeing none. Whoa, that was a quick hand. Yes, Ledge Clerk.
Sorry, you can carry on with the vote. I do have, do we want to talk about school and joint partnerships?
We should.
Okay.
Basically, they have approached us, but due to COVID and other things, you should speak to that.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. So far, we've received one letter from Red Deer City regarding the Catholic school board, I believe, and they wanted to do a partnership because, of course, they will have their election in 2021 as well. At this point, we have replied back to the one letter stating that we cannot commit at this time, however, it's not off the table. We don't know what that looks like. If we stay what we've done in the past and I go to the Legion will be barely enough to do our election, let alone if we, I think, add in a school division that needs to also come in through there. And I think the other thing that has to be remembered when we consider that is we're not just gonna have a ballot that has one column for mayor and one column for councilors. We're probably also going to have a Senate vote in there, and we're probably also going to have referendum questions from the province that have yet to come to us. So our ballots are going to be big. So it could be like 2 ballots, or we don't even know what that looks like yet, truly, because we don't know what's coming down from the province.
Thank you so much for that clarification. All right, we have a motion on the table. I'll call for a vote. All in favor and opposed. And that motion carries. Excellent. That's item 5D. So moving along to new business. We have item 6A, CAO.
Okay, 6A is in regards to a special council meeting starting at 12:45 on Wednesday, November 25th, 2020. That was to basically start the IDP process off with the town of Olds, and then we would join a joint council meeting with Mountain View County. I believe they've sent out the logistics for that while we have been in here, so I'll double check on that. But you'll need 2 sets of logistics, one for the town's meeting and one for joining the joint council meeting with Mountain View County, which they will be hosting. Then we'll be coming back, as Craig may have indicated, to basically deal with the last portion of our IDP, possibly a second and third reading. And then it looks like we'll also have another item added to that, which would be going into a discussion on the mandate of a mass bylaw.
Excellent.
We're
All
not
right.
going to have separate meetings. That would be just part of the same discussion.
Right. Yes, Ledge Clerk.
Thank you. CEO is correct. I do have prepared for after this meeting to send, as he indicated, 2 separate invitations, one for the town meeting, Zoom, and one for county. So you'll just have to, unfortunately, end your Zoom unless you've got 2 devices. And you could run them on both, but you'll have to end one and go into the other and then come back, unfortunately.
And that one and go back to the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll get some counseling, pardon the pun, from our IT people for those who need it on council. Not going to name names, but okay. All right, may I start with a motion, please? Councillor Thompson.
Yes, Your Worship, I would like to move that council call a special council meeting for Wednesday, November 25th, 2020 at 12:45 p.m. to be held virtually through Zoom meetings.
Excellent. Councillor Harper.
It's my understanding when we call a special council meeting, we should indicate for what purposes.
Okay.
And so that motion should indicate the purpose of the meeting, which in this case it would be IDP, as well as our bylaw,
Mass bylaw.
2020-20.
Excellent.
So friendly
A
amendment suggested?
Councillor Thompson?
Yes, I accept that.
Excellent. All right, questions, comments, concerns on the amended motion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor and opposed. And motion is carried. Excellent. That's 6A, sorry. Let's move along to 6B, UCP Park. Oh, yes. Okay, no. Councillor Bennett, would you like to open us up with this one?
Yes, it's a company that was also at ARPA, Alberta Recreation and Parks, and they have imagination and playground themes. And this in particular, their prices vary from $10,000 US to $100,000, and they can prepare any number of styles of themed playgrounds. The ones that caught my eye in particular were the sports ones, because I'll pass this around. They've got soccer balls, they've got baseball bats, they've got footballs, any sport thing that you can think of, and there are different sizes of these things. And my first thought was, oh my gosh, they would be amazing at Rotary Park. So I'll pass them around for your information, and their website is UPC Parks. So you'll get information. Okay, sure.
Yeah, I think that'd be best to do that.
COVID, okay.
Yes, to be much more COVID-friendly that way. All right, so do we need a motion to accept for information? Yes. May I have a motion, please? Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Your Worship. I move that we accept UPC Parks information, I guess.
That would be it. Questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor and opposed? Motion is carried. All right, let's move right along to item 6C, capital request. And I believe that's CAO or
No,
directly to
thank
Director
you.
Lindeman?
I'll ask Director Lindeman to speak to this item.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. So today we're coming to you with a request to increase our capital budget by $60,000. The North Reservoir Relining Project was passed as part of the capital budget on April 27th. Through our RFP process, the proposals that came in a bit higher than anticipated. The one proposal that we have narrowed it down to is still within the $500,000 budget, but they are telling us that we should plan for a contingency based on the video that they have seen of the reservoir. It is good practice to have a contingency in place for anything that arises during that project. So that is what the $60,000 today is for.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Director Linderman. May I start with a motion, please? Councillor Overwater.
Thank you, Your Worship. I move that council approves the adjustment to the 2020 approved capital budget in the amount of $60,000 for a total 2020 capital budget of $13,680,466. I'd like to make a comment too.
Yes.
During my Waste Commission meeting this morning, in January, we'll be sending out RFPs for our supercell that we're building. We call it a supercell because it's going to be 1.5 times of what a normal cell would be. And according to our CAO, a lot of the contractors are saying, you know, get your RFPs in, get your inquiries in, because there's so much money that's coming out from the feds and the provincial regarding projects that the costs are going to be even higher. So this is good that we're going to be putting more in there, because who knows, it could even be double that. So.
Excellent. Thank you. Good comment. Question, any further questions, comments, concerns? No, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor and opposed, and that motion is carried as well. Thank you very much. Let's move right along to item 6D. This is a public appointment of public at large to the CAPE board. And we will be going into camera to discuss this, as is customary with this type of dealing. And I won't reveal the name of the person at this point, but I will declare a pecuniary interest with regards to this individual. So I'll ask Deputy Mayor Blatz to come and take care of this item, as I will recuse myself, and please give me a shout back when I'm here. Sorry? That should be council and CAO only. Yes, yeah. But I'll let somebody make the motion for, it'll be FOIP section 17.
Oh.
Yeah.
You can take your chair over, actually.
Okay.
Probably do that.
Yeah, she can, I don't think she has to. There we go, and then we don't have to sanitize. Yes.
Hey, it's Cole Swindell. Just like you, I've been waiting and waiting for college football season, and it's finally here. This is pretty much my favorite time of year. I've been a huge college football fan since I was a little kid, always watching, spending Saturday game days with family and friends. That's why I'm taking over Spotify's Tailgate Party playlist, sharing my favorite game day tracks with you that keep the energy up and the party going. Tap the banner now to listen to my Tailgate Party. Hey, it's Cole Swindell. Just like you, I've been waiting and waiting for college football season, and it's finally here. This is pretty much my favorite time of year. I've been a huge college football fan since I was a little kid, always watching, spending Saturday game days with family and friends. That's why I'm taking over Spotify's Tailgate Party playlist, sharing my favorite game day tracks with you that keep the energy up and the party going. Tap the banner now to listen to my Tailgate Party.
All right, I'd like to call today's meeting back to order. I believe we have a rise and report, Councillor Overwater.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Yes, I move to defer this discussion to the special meeting November 25th, 2020, under FOIP Section 17.
Excellent, thank you. All righty, let's keep moving along and, oh, yes. Oh, the vote, okay. Well, that's why I was wondering if it needed a vote and,
What are you two over there saying?
no,
Oh,
okay.
it's okay, what I read? Okay.
And that's why I asked if I should still be in the room for this. If there's a vote, then, okay. I'll call for the vote. No, Councillor Blatt should probably call for the vote. Deputy.
There was no vote on this item, was to
Okay.
refer it to the next meeting.
We don't need a vote on that motion?
I'll refer that to the clerk.
No, she's,
Yes, right.
yes,
But you have to vote on that.
yeah. And that's something I should recuse myself from. I just won't vote. So if Deputy Mayor Blatz would call for the vote, I will abstain.
All right, then I guess I will call for the vote on Councillor Overwater's motion. All in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. All right, let's continue on. We have reports from councils, boards, and committees. As tradition is, I'll ask Councillor Bennett to start, and we'll go around.
I'll put a motion on the floor.
Yes, please.
I move that the reports from council, authorities, boards, and commissions ending November 23rd, 2020 be received for information. And as this is the end of the month, I will be submitting my written report from Alberta Recreation and Parks. This year's theme is Essential to Life. And an additional theme includes recreating during COVID-19 and the decline of funding for municipalities. Do these topics affect olds, Yes, they do. It's amazing how every topic regarding towns is interrelated. You can't have one without the other. Although this was Parks and Rec Conference, strategic planning and budgeting are some of the most important for a vibrant town. You can't just say, I hope we accomplish. You actually have to have a mandate that states you will accomplish. So the 4 pillars include mandating, which is prescribed, and town relevance, and that's to the public, and action-oriented to compete to entice for-profit companies to your town. Financial sustainability, assessing risk, planning for reserves, public engagement, budgeting. Next one is flexibility, able to pivot to the next challenge without a knee-jerk reaction, having a base plan or template in place to cover unexpected events. And the town has done very well in all of those. So how to do all of this for citizens with decreasing funding for the province and the feds, budget cuts and how to deal with them. Consider shallow cuts throughout the year so a little is trimmed rather than wholesale cuts every year. Shallow cuts are much more palatable to the community, and we must never have double-digit cuts. That's just catastrophic for a sustainable community. We must consider the reduced scope of services and the rationalization of each service as budgets decline. And we did and we do that process well, I think. Parks and Rec may be the first to get cuts in a budget, and for all the wrong reasons. In these extraordinary times, parks, green spaces, trails, trees, fresh air, and the ability to exercise or just sit and listen to the birds is important to our mental health. We're a 4-season country, and getting outside is important in all seasons. We are all feeling the restrictions on our life, and we need to have choices to enjoy the outdoors. Towns are being innovative and trying exciting projects for their communities. Do you have disc golf? Well, we do have a partial disc golf course. It's the new thing that's coming on board. Okotoks has introduced and had one designed, 9-hole disc golf course, and it was busy every good weather day during the summer. And certainly there's something that we can consider as well, is updating our disc golf. It's something that's low cost and available to anybody, really. Tennis courts have the dual purpose as pickleball courts as well. These activities are also low cost alternative to other sports. Outdoor rinks are important this year in particular, as are toboggan hills. Some communities are also able to have a skating trail, so part of their trails they actually set as a skating trail, and there's been great buy-in to that. Others are having learn to skate classes for all age groups, and they actually rent skates out to encourage this activity. Other communities are having groups do exercise or activities in the park in spring, summer, fall, whether it be Tai Chi, yoga, senior fitness, Zumba. There's also painting classes, theater, music, and many more endeavors. This creates a feeling of belonging, a sense of confidence, social time, and a sense of well-being, and what better way to improve mental health. Another theme that was discussed was girls and sports. 62% of girls quit sports in middle school. And so why is this? There's always been a lack of focus on girls in sport, and this was another large topic that had communities implementing a variety of programming. So girls only swimming hour for free swims, lessons, or aquasizing. And this might sound different to all of us, but Brooks in particular has a cultural request to have this done where ladies only are swimming. And young ladies here will tell you that they do not want to be in a mixed class with boys, as they don't have the confidence and are embarrassed to be seen publicly in a bathing suit. Do we hear about this often? Not likely, because these young ladies just want to fade into the background and hope nobody notices them. With the emphasis on diversity in community, culture, and activities, these young ladies are missing the chance to have a lifelong passion for a sport. All-girl teams are very successful in hockey and in soccer, and the challenge should be easy for us by talking with groups in our community and the schools and planning girls-only activities. This will build confidence now and into the future and develop a social network and better mental health. And diverse activities are vital to all of our age groups and abilities. We're a community that should be open to ideas that bring social, physical, and environmental opportunities to all our citizens and see the positive outcomes for our community. And perhaps it's time for the town of Olds to create a play charter. This could lead to low-cost and spontaneous activities that would have a spillover effect to increase our quality of life in a COVID world with diminishing dollars at our disposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bennett. Councillor Harper.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I did attend portions of the RMA virtual conference earlier in November, and they had high remarks for outgoing President Al Kemery, as we all do, and I know that he did a wonderful job over the last number of years as president of RMA. Attended a chamber meeting last week. It's good to know that the chamber is in a healthy financial position now. That's great news to hear. They have put out a public call to chamber members seeking more directors, and especially to serve in the position of vice president. That's been vacant since the death of volunteer Judy Schlickemeyer. And we have hired a new bookkeeper at a very reasonable fee. We will have a special meeting tomorrow at 12:30 to discuss some more information about increasing the ED's hours or not for the next few months. I also attended the Public Art Advisory Committee meeting, the first one since September of last year, and welcomed new committee member Rob Irwin to the committee. We did review the mural survey, and all the members were very pleased to see that so many positive comments were submitted as part of that survey that was received. Water Commission meeting is actually on Wednesday, and they will be going through the budget on Wednesday.
Excellent. Thank you, Councillor Harper. Councillor Overwater.
Thank you, Worship. Yes, I attended 2.5-day budget deliberations, P&P, RMA 2 half-day sessions. Met with the Mayor of Didsbury to discuss CAPE council meetings. I tried to attend the Remembrance Day ceremony, but however, I kind of got mixed up on the times, which is really silly because it's at 11. Anyways, that was a lack of communication there. Attended the EOEP program, Council Role in Service Delivery. It runs from November 12th to December 3rd. It's 4 1.5-hour sessions. CAO conversation, public art meeting, organizational. We voted back in the chair and the vice chair that were there last year. And they are very excited. They're looking forward to hopefully getting some projects. The Cape Fall FGM, there was no MPC this month, so didn't attend anything there. The Waste Commission, our revenues are up and our expenses are down, so that's a good thing. We will be sending out an RFP in January, February to start our supercell in end of May, June, weather permitting. We will need to move about 2,000 tons of waste that was there in the 90s. We have to dig it up, place it, put down a liner, and put the leachate collection sites in, and then hopefully we can shred some of the waste that was in there. And it was interesting, our operations guy, Ryan, he dug up some waste that was there, and he actually found a newspaper clipping back when he was a little guy playing hockey, and he could actually still read it. I mean, that's how it just stays there. I mean, wood and composting material, it disintegrates, but you could still read the newspaper, which was quite interesting. So there was that. So we'll be pretty busy this summer at the landfill. Our contractor for picking up the, at the 8 recycling centers that we have is Airdrie Waste, but they have been bought out by E360. And E360 is going around and buying out quite a few of the smaller places. So probably what's going to happen is once they, get these smaller recycling haulers, the prices will go up. I mean, it's just going to be a matter of time when that happens, according to our CAO. I think that was about it. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Councillor Overwater. Councillor Ryan.
Well, thank you, Your Worship. I also attended a few things that have already been spoken about, but some of the other things are Parkland Regional Library Board. We had an organizational meeting, and I was added to the executive board for the second year to represent our zone. Our zone includes Town of Olds, Carstairs, Didsbury, Cremona, and Mountain View County. And then also we got a report that we moved into our new building, which went pretty smoothly, no hiccups, which is great. And they're working on putting a virtual tour together because obviously we can't have a grand opening with all kinds of people with COVID. So they're putting together a virtual tour that they hope to put on to the website, and everybody can have a chance to take a look at the new building. Also attended the Olds Municipal Library Board meeting last week. We passed our budget with a 0% increase from the Town of Olds from the funding that we provide them. And also I shared with them the highlights of our budget from the town that we had in the comments with regards to the library, the section on the arts and heritage and library museum and area, which were well received because there's lots of good comments about people enjoying our library, and they certainly did a great job, tremendous job, I should say, over the time of when we were closed and servicing our public. So that's great. I'm also taking the EOEP course on service delivery, and in particular trying to get an idea of how the COVID is impacting our service delivery. And Mountain View Seniors Housing, we will be having a organizational meeting next week, but we just wanted to share that we have passed the budget. The requisition will decrease slightly, 1.535%. So the Town of Olds portion, not a huge amount, but at least it's going in the right direction. So the Town of Olds portion for 2021 is $569,318. That's it.
Excellent. Thank you, Councillor Ryan. Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Your Worship. I also participated in the 2.5-day budget discussions. I attended all the regular PNP and council meetings, also the RMA virtual conference, and I do appreciate the keynote speaker of Arlene Dickinson, her comments, and particularly in small business. I'm also attending the EOEP Council's Role in Service Deliveries, of course, our CO conversation. I did attend the chamber meeting last Wednesday, and I have attended 2 Waste Commission meetings as I'm on the audit committee, and we're preparing for our year end and preparing for financial statements. And I also attended the Red Deer River Municipal Users Group executive meeting on Thursday morning. All of that pertinent information, I didn't do a written report on it because they're very good at sharing that information. But you'll notice some of the information there on our handbook is part of the reason why I've asked for the executive director and perhaps the co-chairs to attend one of our policy and priorities meetings to discuss it further and give you a better understanding of it, because you can lose translation being the third party. So that's all that I have attended this month. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Blatz. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Like many of the other councillors, I attended the council's role in service delivery class through the elected officials education program Of course, the budget meetings that we've had in preparation, the CEO council conversation, PMP, and the regular meetings, of course. Unfortunately, Citizens on Patrol and the Municipal Planning Commission, neither one had meetings this month, so I did not put any time there.
Excellent, thank you so much, Councillor Thompson. In amongst many of the things that already were talked about, at this point, I would very much like to, which came out of the RMA conference, thank Al Kemry. He has done such an incredible job with RMA and AUMA, the urbans and the rural municipality associations in Alberta work incredibly well together. And I know it's largely due to the leadership of Al Kemry, and it was fantastic to have a representative from our neck of the woods to sit on that organization as president for such a long time. And just want to extend council's thank you to Al for his years and years of service with that organization and our community as well. Not quite sure what the future holds for him, but he is an exceptional leader in our area, and thank you, Al, for all your service. In addition to that, on November 9th, I was honored to attend not one, but two 101st birthdays at the Seniors Lodge here in the town of Olds. Miss Ruth Zimmerman and Mr. Elmer Klatt both turned 101 in November this year. I think that's an incredible thing for our town and a town of our size to have 201s in the same month. On November 11th, I was honored to speak at the very muted and COVID taken down Remembrance Day ceremony. It was just a very quick service at the cenotaph outside, and there was some confusion around it, and I'm sure the Legion apologizes, and I apologize to council for not having that information out to them a little bit earlier. Hopefully next year we can get back to our regular ceremony that we have at the Ralph Klein Center, where everybody can come forth on this incredibly important day, and we can all remember together. On November 18th, I attended the Cape Fall General Meeting. Great stuff coming out of there. We look forward to appointing a business representative from the town of Olds to that board. And on November 20th, I attended the Infrastructure and Energy Committee meeting at AUMA, and I will have a report out for council on our briefing notes and so forth. It was the first meeting of this term and my third round with that organization, and it does some incredibly great work with regards to everything infrastructure and energy, which incredibly at the Alberta government level pretty much touches everything that we do in day-to-day life here at the town. So very honored to be on that committee again. So that's the end of my report. We have Councillor Blatz, then Councillor Overwater.
I think one point that we all forgot to mention here too is to say thank you to the Old Fashioned Christmas Committee. We all watched the Merry, I can't remember what the name of it, Merry Motorcade, pardon me, I've written it down once. Yeah, Merry Christmas Motorcade, and also the fireworks were fabulous. So hats off to the committee and all our employees who participated in that. That was, you know, a very well attended and very happy occasion, and I saw nothing but accolades and positive remarks coming out from all on our social media. So I think that was really great. And I just think that we need to recognize that and thank all involved.
Absolutely, thank you for remembering that. Councillor Overwater.
Thank you, Worship. Yes, and to you, Councillor Blatz, and the fireworks. Yes. The
Yes.
fireworks were absolutely amazing. Everybody loved it. There was hundreds of people out and about. It was wonderful. So maybe that is a better time, as Councillor Harper had suggested, maybe a little earlier, that that might be a better time to have them versus Canada Day.
Yep.
Anyway, that's not my question. My question to you is,
Yes.
you're on the Economic Recovery Task Force. Have you guys met yet? And
Yes, we did, and we finalized our work plan, which I'll get out to council as well, and we'll include in the minutes as well. I just need to get clearance to make sure I can, there's nothing in camera in that, I don't think there was, but I'll double check with our facilitator. And I do have a follow-up meeting, is it next week or the week after? Let me see what it is. December 9th is our second meeting where we'll actually roll up our sleeves and get to the work plan that we finally approved at our last meeting. So the first two meetings were to get a direction where we're going, get it approved by the AUMA board, and now we'll actually roll up our sleeves and get working. Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. All right, anybody else have any questions or so forth? All right, we have a motion on the table, so I'll call for a vote. All in favor? And opposed? And that motion is carried. All right, let's move right along to item 8A. Directly to Director Linderman, or did CAO want to have a word? Directly, he says, or he points. So Director Linderman.
Thank you. This is the financial update to September 30th, so that is 9 months of the year, or 75% of the way through. Our operating budget is 56% spent, and our capital budget is at 20%. And as always, invoices lag, so, and capital, especially, a lot of the road projects come in October, November, so. A couple things I do want to go through. You'll notice on the revenue and expenses that taxes show at 100%. That is just when we record the revenue. If we go to the balance sheet under note 2, you'll see the outstanding taxes as of September 30th was 2.6 million. That is slightly up from the same time in 2019, but I did look again today and we're at about $100,000 difference, which is not bad, all things considered. Also under note 2, utilities receivable, it is down in comparison to 2019. The other thing I did want to note was on the balance sheet again, our long-term debt, as you can see, is up, and that is we did take out the op center debenture in the last couple months, and that is also reflected in the cash on hand, as it is up significantly over last year. And I think I'll just open it up to questions from there.
Excellent, thank you very much, Director Linderman. May I start with a motion, please? Councillor Ryan, we haven't heard from you, I don't think, on a motion yet today.
Thank you, Your Worship. I move that the financial report for the 9-month period, January 1st, 2020 to September 30th, 2020, be accepted for information. And I do have a question, if that's okay. On page 188, so I'm not a financial guru and by any means, so I just need to have explained to me. Under the expenditures, other transactions, we have the 2020 budget at 5,000 and we've got actual at 145. So what?
Sorry, I
was
forgot.
that?
I
So
was
it's
going
kinda
to
like,
mention
okay,
that.
that's really off.
Yeah, no, that is the direct COVID expenses have fallen under other. Yeah, sorry, I was going to mention that.
And those were covered by the MOST program out of
Yes,
the Alberta government as well.
We
These are
did
operational.
Yeah, we did receive that money last week, and so it is sitting in deferred revenue right now, but I will disperse it for the next one.
Yeah. Further questions, comments, concerns? I think we're sitting pretty well. Thank you very much, Director Linderman. All things considered with the year that we've had, the balance sheet and the financial statement work quite well. All right, we have a motion on the table, so I'll call for votes. All in favor and opposed, and that motion is carried as well. All right, let's have a look at our agenda. Well, look at that. It brings us to adjournment, I believe. So who would like to move to adjourn? Councillor Harper. All right. And we are adjourned.